All right. Hi, and welcome to everyone joining in for our special webinar series. Today is our second webinar in the series with the UN Visitor Center, and we will be talking about SDGs in action. And we have some very special guests that we'll be introducing shortly. As we mentioned in the beginning, we have a chat box available, so please feel free to add in your location, your introduction, and any questions you may have over the course of our webinar session today. We are going to be recording this session, so if you're not able to stay for the entire time, or if you would like to share it with colleagues, we will be sending it out to you tomorrow. We will have, and we'll share a little bit more at the end of the call here today, we will have a third webinar session in 2 weeks where we'll be going deeper into human rights. But today is all about the SDGs. So before I turn it over to my friend Elizabeth at the UN Visitor Center, I'd like to introduce our two speakers for today. So first we have Ezra Sergey Bertani, and she joined the United Nations in 2014. She currently works in the Strategic Communications Division of the Department of Global Communications. In her current role, Ezra designs and implements communication strategies to advance the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and acts as the department's social media focal point for the SDGs. Prior to that, she served as the communications officer in the advocacy section of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, and as a press officer in the meetings coverage section of the DGC. Prior to joining the UN, she worked as a graduate teaching and research assistant at the Pennsylvania State University and State College, PA. We probably have some friends joining from that area today. And she holds a master's degree in the International Affairs from Pennsylvania State University and State College, United States, and a BS in the International Relations from the Middle East Technical University in Ankara, Turkey. She is a national of Turkey. So welcome, Ezra. We're excited to hear from you today.
Thank you so much.
Ezra is also joined by our friend Norman Muwezi, and Norman is a Ugandan engineer passionate about technology and innovation management, both in the private and humanitarian sectors, with over 10 years of experience. He's an innovation specialist with UNICEF, focusing on finding out-of-the-box solutions that address the needs of children, young people, and women. He is currently leading an innovative project that uses robust bricks produced from plastic waste to build classrooms, creating safer, cleaner environments for children to learn. We're going to hear about that today. So before joining UNICEF, Norman worked in various countries as a radio planning engineer, a multinational mobile telecommunications company operating in many African, European, and Asian countries. He holds an MBA from East and Southern African Management Institute and a BSc in Telecommunication Engineering from Uganda. Norman enjoys a good movie, but can also be found on long bike rides. So we're so happy to have you with us here, Norman.
Hi, everybody.
Great to see you. So thank you to Norman and Ezra, and we're excited to kick off your session today. I'm honored to welcome Elizabeth. Elizabeth Wachter heads the United Nations Visitor Center in New York, and we were honored to have her with us for our first webinar. So Elizabeth, I'd love to turn it over to you to share a little bit about your work and the goal of our series.
Okay. Oops. Rookie move, sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. So thank you so much, Jennifer. Good morning, everybody. I'm excited to see so many of us, many of you joining us again from literally all corners of the world. Happy to see some faces who were with us 2 weeks ago, and I think a few new people. So just really quickly, my name is Elizabeth Wachter. I run the Visitor Services section at United Nations headquarters in New York City. And ordinarily that means that we're responsible for anybody who comes to visit the UN in New York. Now these of course are very different times. Everything is closed to the public, but we're still very much active and working. So we've had to take all of our visitor services online. And actually, what prompted us to start offering not just these sessions to teachers, but also online tours of the UN building was our cooperation with the New York City Department of Education, where we have a standing project with them where we have 7th graders come to the UN and learn all about the SDGs. So we're building on that. We took everything we do online, and the importance of education can obviously not be overestimated. So we are very happy to be able to be working with educators literally from around the world. The first webinar we had focused on kind of a UN overview. We had focused on peace and security. Today's webinar will focus on the SDGs. I know you're all experts on the SDGs already, but I'm absolutely convinced that both our speakers today will be able to share something with you that you didn't know, and the focus is very much on also how to implement this in the classroom and also on action. It's not just about big words, but it's about how the SDGs can be implemented in everyday activities. And then our final webinar is on human rights, so that way we're covering what we call the 3 pillars of the work of the United Nations. So we'd be really keen to receive your feedback. We're also learning this new way of communicating and interacting with people. So anybody, any questions, comments, specific requests, we'd be very, very happy to hear. And we look forward to continuing our cooperation with Jennifer and all of you, even after the end of the 3rd webinar. So watch this space. Anyway, I'll be quiet now and hand over to Ezra.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for the introduction. It's it's a huge honor to be here and talking to everyone on the call. Good morning and good afternoon for those on the other side of the world, of course. So basically, Jennifer made the introduction. I'm Esra. I've been working with the UN since 2014, and I'm super passionate about the Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm sure you're very, very much, knowledgeable about that topic. One thing about me is I'm a new mom, so as we all working from home, and you might hear my little one in the background. I hope not, but just flagging it, disclaimer in advance. So basically, I'm an associate public information officer with the Sustainable Development section, and my section has been focusing on communicating about the SDGs all around the world. And today, particularly, I'll be talking about the SDGs. I'm sure you already know, but the latest, updates on the SDGs, for instance, the Decade of Action, the COVID-19 impact on the SDG implementation advancement, and individual action. I'm sure you're very much interested in that part. So now I'm going to share my screen and show you my presentation. So here it is. Just before I start, I'm also on Twitter. So my handle is my name that you see on the screen. So you can find me, you can start a conversation. I'm happy to answer your questions also on Twitter. So as you know, in 2015, the world governments came together in New York, and 193 member states accepted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So now we're 5 years into the 2030 Agenda. In January, our Secretary General kicked off the Decade of Action. So what is Decade of Action? So let me start with a short video. So it would give you a
The Sustainable Development Goals are the world's action plan for a fair globalization and a better future for all. We have 10 years to bring that vision to life, and we can only get there together. That is why we have launched a Decade of Action to deliver the goals, to overcome poverty and inequality, to combat the climate crisis and advance gender equality, to build peaceful, just and inclusive societies free of discrimination and hate in harmony with nature. Join us, step up, seize the moment, and let us work together to meet the goals, move our world forward, and leave no one behind.
So yes, that was our little video about the Decade of Action by our the Secretary General. So yes, the Decade of Action, with only 10 years to go to achieve the SDGs, is an ambitious global effort to deliver the goals by 2030. And basically what does this mean is mobilizing everyone and everywhere, demanding urgency and ambition, and designing new innovations and solutions. So under the mobilizing everyone and everywhere, this means we will work to create like changes, create an unstoppable force linked to the SDGs. And we will identify risks to ensure that no one is left behind. And this requires basically each one of us take action individually and collectively, and locally and globally. Under the demand, urgency, and ambition, what this means is basically we must be the generation to end extreme poverty, win the race against climate change, conquer injustice and gender inequality. So we will hold the leaders accountable, leader to account, and point to what is possible when action delivers results. And under the design, new innovations and solutions, this means that we're going to supercharge ideas. We will shine a light on solutions that expand access and demonstrate the possibilities of ideas. We will drive sustainable innovation, financial investments, and technology, while making space in our communities, in cities, for young people to lead. So this also means that we have to work together now more than ever, and with the determination to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. As you know, like since January, this pandemic has taken over the world, and it has been quite a big problem for the whole world, affecting everyone everywhere. So that means to make sure that the Decade of Action becomes successful, we need to work all together with everyone, which includes government, civil society, academia, and education sector, individuals like you. So one question you might have in mind, now we're facing a global health pandemic all around the world, and basically the UN is facing a crisis unlike any other in its 75-year history of the organization. So yes, COVID-19 is damaging the progress towards the SDGs, but one question you might have: are we still on track to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030? Because we absolutely need a transformative recovery from COVID-19, and this basically requires addressing the crises and reducing the risks from future potential crises. So basically, we recently launched our SDG Progress Report 2020. So this latest report was published last month in July 2020, and basically it showed that we have made progress in in a number of areas, which includes maternal and child health, access to electricity, and also increasing women's representation in government. But this doesn't mean that we have made progress everywhere. So there are some areas that we lack progress, and of course, COVID-19 made it worse, and it halted progress. So advances were offset elsewhere by growing food insecurity, deterioration of the natural environment, and persistent and pervasive inequalities. So basically, in summary, the latest report shows that we made progress in various areas, in various places around the world, but still this progress is not enough to reach the SDGs by 2030. And now we're basically facing the pandemic, COVID-19, and this pandemic has quickly become the worst human and economic crisis of our lifetime, spreading to all countries, with the global death toll right now exceeding, I think it stands around like close to 780,000 people, and the number of confirmed cases stands at 22 million. So we need to make sure that we recover better from this pandemic. So now I want to talk about individual action, and I think that is something that you would be quite interested as you're in the education sector and you're teaching about the SDGs. And basically there's some super easy things that we can adopt to our lives and make the SDGs part of, like our habits. So we have three different things, three different projects, if I can say. So one is the Lazy Person's Guide to Save the World. So it's saving the world. It might sound very funny, but a Lazy Person's Guide is our really fun educational tool that we have to make sure that nobody has any excuse to implement the SDGs. So basically what this means is we provide like different actions at different levels. For instance, we listed items such as things you can do from your couch, things you can do from your home, things you can do within your neighborhood, and things you can do at work. So for every level, we identified actions that you can take. And these include, for instance, turning off lights when they're not in use, recycling paper, air drying clothes, taking public transportation instead of Uber, or shopping sustainable food, or like taking fewer napkins when you go out and order food. So even simple things like that. So another great resource that we have is 170 daily actions to transform our world. In core, this guidance tool is quite similar to Lazy Person's Guide to Saving the World, but it's more comprehensive in the sense that we list action items under each SDGs. For instance, you want to take action, you're more committed to, not committed, but you're more interested in taking climate action. So you can go to SDG 13, which is on climate action, and see suggested items, suggested habits, suggested action points that actions that you can take. So the last one is our big campaign, which is Act Now. Act Now is our climate campaign that we have. And we launched this campaign in 2018, December in Katowice, Poland, during UN climate event in Poland. And it's about like taking actions. We identify 10 actions, from carrying your refillable water bottle like this one, or taking your reusable shopping bag to the grocery store, or like unplugging devices that are not in use. So Act Now is, yes, this is our website. I want to show it quickly. Basically, Act Now is right here. This is our website, by the way. So this is our Act Now website, and you can see all these actions readily available on our website. And when you go to our website, there's an interactive tool that you can, chat with the bot, and you can ask questions and, respond. So it's quite interactive and very good tool to use. And soon we're gonna have a app that is coming soon in support of Act Now, and it's gonna offer a gamified experience for individuals to take a sustainable journey. So the app will be will bring more sustainability angle to the climate action. So moving forward is one of the focus areas, actually one of the top focus areas that we have is climate, and our Secretary General is quite supportive on that front. As I mentioned, Act Now is our big campaign, and our new mobile app is coming soon. Yes, the other thing I want to talk about is youth. Youth is basically young people play a significant role in the implementation and monitoring and review of the 2030 agenda, as well as in holding governments accountable. And young people, they're super important part of our, our work. And the United Nations identified young people as our partners to work with in, delivering action all around the world. So the Secretary General and our youth envoy, they have launched a youth strategy, which is working with and for young people towards 2030. and which is available on our website as well. And we identify a couple of resources for young people so they can learn more about the SDGs. So we have student resources, we have a SDG Book Club, and we also have a newly developed resource called, source called Why the SDGs Matter. So the first one is, of course, our student resources. These are all our student resources, and it's all about learning about sustainable development from an early age. So these are a couple of resources I collected from different parts of the UN system. One is free rice game from World Food Program. So basically, it's an online game that, you know, like it's a quiz. Every single right answer that you get, basically, there will be a donation to World Food Program, which is, you know, like to end hunger around the world. The other project is called World's Largest Lesson. Basically, it's done in partnership with UNICEF and supported by UNESCO. And this provides lessons, online educational tools about the Sustainable Development Goals. Again, that is available on our website, un.org/sustainable development. And we have Thomas the Tank Engine. We always work with the creative community, and this is one aspect of our partnership. So basically, it provides educational tools, parent tips, as well as teacher tips, to provide, you know, communications tools to start a conversation about the SDGs with young children, So that could be something that you might be interested in learning more, because it's especially a tool that we provide for teachers and parents. And the last one is SDG board game, because we want to make sure that these games are, you know, like SDGs are a fun thing to learn. And we came out with an SDG board game, and you can print and you can dice the roll, you know, you can roll the dice, and, you know, like you can learn different things about the SDGs and make the learning process, make the learning a fun process. And I'm moving quite, I should move like a little faster to, you know, because like my colleague is waiting. So basically, we also have an SDG Book Club, which is quite, you know, like an exciting project that our colleagues is carrying out, like within the Department of Global Communication. So this book club is about, basically, we're releasing books about SDGs every month. So 17 months to read 17 books about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And we have books in 6 official languages. So the hashtag is SDG Book Club, and the link is below. So you can go and check out and find out the recommendations that we have on our website. So the other tool that we have is Why the SDGs Matter. So as you know, the pandemic has shown the fragility of our world, while making the global goals implementation even more like more urgent than ever. So we always say that to recover better, SDGs, also known as the 2030 Agenda, remain our best roadmap so we can achieve these goals and make sure that we leave no one behind. This slide is about working together on the SDGs. So we work with the mobile industry. Basically, under the mobile industry, we have an app called the SDGs in Action app, which provides latest, you know, information about each goal, latest news about each goal, new videos, key facts and figures. So it's something that you can download on your phone and sign up for certain SDGs and then be up to date on the global goals. And as I mentioned, we also work with creative community because they have the power to reach out to more people than we can actually do. So we had projects such as like Thomas and Friends. As I mentioned, we also teamed up with Angry Birds, and we also work with Smurfs and Hello Kitty. And the other 2 things that you see on the screen is one is SDG Media Zone, where we provide the platform for experts, celebrities, basically government heads of governments to let them talk about basically what they're doing about the SDGs and how they are delivering the goals. And the last one is the SDG Media Compact that we team up with the media, our media partners, so and to push them to talk more about the SDGs and leverage their voice to, you know, like leverage their voice and resources to advance the goals. And last but not least is our communications assets that we have. I mean, of course, if you want to use our, you know, like SDG branding and communications materials, we have available in 6 official UN languages. But actually, we have more more SDG assets in more languages. So please feel free to check with me, and I'm more than happy to provide you with more language assets. We also have a website I mentioned. It's un.org/sustainable development. We have all the tools available there. And finally, we have a social media account at Global Goals UN on Facebook and Twitter. Please start following us and get up-to-date information about the SDGs. And thank you so much. Now I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and hand it over to back to Elizabeth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ezra. You zoomed through that. I think it's like drinking from a fire hose, but not to worry. We're going to be sharing all those links with all the participants. And I saw from the chat, some of you are already very familiar with some of these tools, but I hope there's probably something new there for everyone. Before we hand over to Norman, maybe we'll see if there's any questions about anything that Ezra mentioned. Lots of thanks pouring in the chat.
Thank you to them for listening.
Well, maybe there will be more time at the end if anybody remembers anything they want to ask, or just put it in the chat.
I think we have one question.
We'll get to it later. Yeah. What would you choose as the single best way to introduce the SDGs?
Actually, it seems like a simple question, but actually it's a difficult question to answer. My answer would be, depends on who your audience is. If you're talking about students, there are student tools that we have is, you know, if you want to gamify it, we have tools like Act Now to make sure that, you know, they're available, you know, like they know about the sustainability by taking action, by encouraging students to take action. But at the same time, if you want to teach about them, we have resources like World's Largest Lesson, which provides online tools about the SDGs. So like there are different like tools that we have, but at the same time, we have Thomas and Friends, which is a more more for the teachers, that they have the tools to start a conversation about the SDGs. So within the, I think that would be a good one to start with if you want to start a conversation about the SDGs, but don't know where to start. Thomas and Friends is one of them, but we have many tools. So my answer is, of course, depends on your audience, but we have a lot of student tools to start a conversation about the SDGs.
Great. And there's a couple of other good suggestions in the chat as well. A lot of good feedback on the board game, and also someone was saying just speaking about the icons is a good conversation starter, maybe also for slightly older students. I like that idea. But again, there's plenty of resources available.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe like one last thing I can add to that is we developed this tool called, actual source called Why SDGs Matter, because most of the time SDGs seem like a distant idea, and it sounds like, okay, world leaders, they got together and they adopted this agenda, but why should we care? So, I mean, especially for younger generations, this is something that we need to take into consideration. And because of that, we developed the tool called the Why SDGs Matter. And on each SDG, we have a PDF document explaining what's what is it about this SDG matters, and something that you can teach, and individual actions are included in the PDFs as well. So that is something that I would highly recommend checking out on our website. And of course, you can select, you can pick end poverty, or you can pick climate action or gender equality. We have all these, you know, like documents on each SDGs and why they matter.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ezra. There's a couple of other questions talking about actual implementation. And I think the best person to answer that one is actually our next speaker, because he is responsible and involved in a very exciting project happening at the moment in Côte d'Ivoire, and can talk more about the SDGs actually in action. Hopefully you'll find it as interesting as I always do. So I'm going to hand it over to Norman, and I'm sure there'll be more time for questions at the end. Norman.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all. I'm Norman Mwezi. I'm the innovation specialist in UNICEF Côte d'Ivoire. Côte d'Ivoire is Ivory Coast for Anglophone in West Africa, and happy to share this exciting project with you all. Let me share my screen. Just be sure you can see my screen. Okay.
Looks great, Norman.
Okay, so this is a very pretty exciting project that we have here in Côte d'Ivoire. Essentially, we are just using all types of plastic waste except PVC to create materials that can actually be used for construction. The main issue has always been, you know, everyone is trying to recycle plastic, and recycle plastic has been, you separate plastic at home and you give it to the people who are collecting it, and you hope that they're doing something sensible with it. But normally, in some cases, in fact, most of the cases, especially in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, this plastic is not really transformed into something useful. And here comes an exciting opportunity and project that is actually transforming plastic into materials that we can use for construction of classrooms. Just before that, I'd like to play a short video for you. Okay, so if you look at the current challenges that we're facing here in Côte d'Ivoire, you have almost 50% of the population under the poverty line. in terms of education. I think this is really an important element for everyone on the call today. We have over 1.6 children who are out of school, and of course, mainly, as it has been in majority of the countries, you'll find that mainly those are girls. And one of the phenomena that is causing this is actually due to lack of infrastructure, in that, you know, that classrooms are actually not there, or people have to walk quite a lot of kilometers or to actually go to school. We have, when we do a projection up to 2025, we have over 30,000, a shortage of over 30,000 classes that are needed. And in a city like Cote d'Ivoire, that is almost, that has a population size of almost, I think, 6 million people, we collect almost about 300 tons of plastic. 300 tons of plastic actually being produced, and this is not just the domestic plastic waste that is produced within the city, but because it is a coastal city, and this is actually a big problem. Majority of coastal cities is every time you have a high tide, the ocean dumps quite a lot of plastic onto the shore, and of course it never goes back. Of this plastic, about 5% of it is being recycled, mainly just translating, for example, PET bottles or plastic bags into plastic chairs or plastic tables or things like that, or buckets. And again, based on research that has been done, about 60% of diseases that are affecting children, malaria, diarrhea, and pneumonia, can actually be attributed to improper waste management, of which plastic is the majority, in the sense that the plastic tends to clog drainage channels, especially during the rain. During the rain. Excuse me?
Arda, sen inirsin.
Okay.
Can everyone mute themselves, please, so we can hear Norman? Thank you.
Yeah, I was saying that especially during the rainy season, the plastic tends to clog the drainage channels, and these really create serious breeding grounds for mosquitoes, and children pick up the plastic, all this contributing to diseases. So back in late 2018, early 2019, UNICEF partnered with a Colombian social enterprise called Concepto Plástico to actually transfer this technology from South America to Africa. They've come up with a pretty interesting way of combining different types of plastic to create a very strong brick that is actually twice as strong as normal construction materials, or mono-construction bricks made out of cement and sand. And yeah, we started, of course, with a pilot, since this is something new, but the goodwill and the uptake that received from the communities where we tried out this solution, as well as government, was very, very encouraging, that UNICEF actually went ahead to go ahead and provide what we'd call catalytic funding for this solution to be implemented here in Cote d'Ivoire. These bricks are very, very interesting in a way that they are lighter, they are cheaper to maintain, and they're more durable. What I mean is that actually, when we're doing construction of these classrooms, we use, I think, about a 1 kilogram hammer to actually pound them and compact them together. There is nothing like a bonding agent that is needed. You don't need iron bars. You just need the bricks and the columns that provide the structure support. These bricks are actually twice as strong as normal concrete bricks. And in Cote d'Ivoire, the standard size for classroom is about 68 square meters, and you need about 5 tons of plastic waste to actually make materials or construction materials that would be necessary to actually construct one classroom. So just think about it. Every time we build one classroom, we are taking out 5 tons of plastic, 5,000 kilograms of plastic out of the environment. Again, the system is very, very interesting in the sense that we do have 7 types of plastic, and of these 7 types of plastic, it uses 6 types of plastic except PVC. So just think of plastic cups, bottles, computers, laptops, car parts, and all that, provided there's no PVC within that, particular type of plastic, it can be used to actually make these bricks. These bricks are so easy to assemble in the sense that it actually takes between 3 to 5 days to assemble the 4 walls that constitute a classroom, depending on how motivated the people you're working with are. And all you need is just the bricks and the hammer. You just put them together, like I said, no bonding agent, nothing to say that, you know, we finish a construction, we need to wait for it to dry up. If you compare this to normal standard construction, here I'm taking maybe 3 weeks to actually start a classroom, do the foundation, do the walls, and do the roof, and within 3 weeks I have a classroom ready to be used, compared to, I don't know, 3 to 6 months here in Cote d'Ivoire for you to actually have a classroom up and ready for running. The bricks as well, fire retardant, they're as well waterproof, and well insulated, and actually very good for environments where they have high winds and maybe more chances of earthquakes, because the fact that there's no bonding agent, the walls have some little bit of give, in the sense that if something shakes, even if the earthquake is not so strong, the walls will actually not collapse, since the cracks would definitely not developed within the walls. So for this particular project, our focus has when I was talking about providing the catalytic funding to actually get this project up here and running in Cote d'Ivoire, I was talking about the catalytic funding was actually used to set up a factory here in Cote d'Ivoire, because for these benefits to be enjoyed by the people of Cote d'Ivoire, it only makes sense when you have the factory here in Cote d'Ivoire, because you're cleaning up the environment for children in Cote d'Ivoire. You're using the plastic that is present here in Cote d'Ivoire. So yes, we could have decided to, you know, work with this company and keep importing from Colombia, but that would more or less help people in Colombia more than the people in Cote d'Ivoire, and we wanted this here. So, you know, you're looking at it in terms of there's an element of cleaning up the environment, there's an element of job creation, because the recycling sector in Cote d'Ivoire is very, very informal, in the sense that there's really nothing formalized. People just collect and sell. There's nothing that is formalized, and hopefully with time this project will help put some bit of formality within the plastic waste supply chain. The commitment we've done so far is actually to build about 528 classrooms by end of 2021, but of course with the effects of COVID and what is going on in the world, we might need to adjust our targets in that regard. We do need to as well look at this, the element of employment, not employment on the supply chain of it, but the employment on the construction side of it. Again, like I said, the bricks are unique, the bricks are robust, and the bricks are easy to use. You do not need to have a master's degree or a degree in civil engineering or structural engineering to use these bricks. You just need someone to show you how to put the bricks together, and you do the construction. The model we're actually using is that we've carried out training for a number of local companies here in Cote d'Ivoire, no, here in Abidjan, and these people go out to the different communities, and you know, you need about 6 people to construct a classroom. So those 6 people, instead of carrying 6 people from Abidjan to the north of the country, you know, Dene to construct a classroom, instead you carry about 2 people who will go to this northern part of the country and train the people they find within the community to actually carry out the classroom. In that way, you're doing knowledge transfer. In that way, you're getting buy-in from the community, because this is a totally different construction method, and actually you need to take time to explain to the people that these bricks are actually safe, they are stronger, and when people do take part in construction of this work, of these classrooms, they actually feel part of, they're contributing to the development of their own communities. These classrooms, in the sense that they're going to last quite a long time, they don't need maintenance that is needed for standard classrooms. You can do painting on the outside if you wish. You can put plywood to make it look more beautiful. It is up to you to what you want to do. But in terms of maintenance, you could say this is low maintenance. And as unemployment is really a big issue at the moment in most of the countries, such a construction method, such a new way of doing things gives a chance to give some form of employment as well as skills development to young people as well as women who are involved. I can actually tell you that we've had women who are actually even laying the concrete of the classroom in different communities. It's not that it has to just be men. Yes, definitely the focus has been, like I've said earlier, we're looking at really taking care of children who are out of school, because essentially someone who is educated will definitely contribute better to the community later in life. We're focusing more on shortages and places that are overcrowded, and we've worked with the Ministry of Education to identify all these areas. It's actually the Ministry of Education that has given us like a mapping of where the different schools should be put. We're looking at working with mothers and women who are the majority who are actually working within the recycling. You can have a look at the photo to the left. Coastal communities, like I said, you have two types of plastic pollution, domestic as well as the one that is coming from the city, and try and work with the authorities as well to come up with better waste management services within the cities as well. Okay, so I'm going to show you a series of photos, and this first photo is actually very, very interesting. If you look to the right, you can see some form of temporary structure made out of palm leaves, some bit of polythene, and as you can see, this is really a class that can only be used during the dry season. During the rainy season, such a class is not being used. And these are classes that are being constructed by communities because the government has not managed to reach some of these areas. So imagine how a child is going to feel when they are moving from such a classroom to the right to one we just constructed here to the left. This is a classroom that we constructed. Actually, these are 3 classrooms with an office and a library as well. It's a bit modernized. You can see the facilities for children who are not able to walk, disability facilities. The classroom is well ventilated. There's a lot of light that is coming in, and we don't need actually to do any kind of air cooling or anything like that, because the design caters for that to ensure that natural ventilation is happening. So these children, the aim is that we're trying to improve the learning spaces so that children can feel more comfortable and learn better and perform better with the education. This is also another place that we constructed. Just wanted to emphasize, this is actually 6 classrooms with office and as well as store. This is the interior of one of the classrooms that we worked on. As you can see here, you can see the bricks very clearly on the outside, and here you can't exactly see the bricks on the inside. This is saying that depending on the kind of funding that is available, then you can add more things inside the classroom to actually make it more conducive and more visually appealing to children. This classroom, we did use plywood on the inside and painted it and put all these characters. For people who attended, who passed by the UN last year, the UNGA, we had a model at the UN. It was just, I think, a 2x4 model that we constructed, I think, in 2 nights. And it was really a hit with the government of Cote d'Ivoire that passed by, and a number of other leaders of different countries, leaders of different states, and there's quite a lot of interest. And I believe Elizabeth and Jennifer can correct me. This actually stand was so popular that the UN decided to keep the stand there, I think 1 or 2 months past the UNGA, so that people can actually appreciate this further. Yes, so we started from constructing classrooms, but like I said, these bricks are quite robust. We've as well prototyped construction of toilets. This is a unit for toilets for girls using the same bricks. This is also a storage facility for dry medical supplies that can be used for routine immunization, and these are going to be constructed in different areas. Currently, the model is to actually store such things in shipping containers, which of course rust after some time, but this is an alternative that we've proposed for Cote d'Ivoire. We've constructed two, and actually the Ministry of Health likes them and they're taking them up. This is the factory that we started the construction on May of 2019, and I can comfortably tell you that, proudly tell you that having a factory up and running in Cote d'Ivoire within 1 year, and with everything that is going on with the COVID, is really a testament to the kind of work that the UN and UNICEF is doing to advance the rights for children. This is unprecedented. You can get in touch with me on LinkedIn, and I can share more details on all this and the kind of challenges that we went through. As you can see, this is just women working on shredding the plastic. That is really the first part on the production chain. You can see these are actually milk bottles, containers used for packaging food and things like that. Essentially, this is what we are trying to do, or this is the entire project just on one page. I just wanted to finish with this particular image so that you can just continue having a look at it and you see what we are exactly trying to do. Of course, starting with schools, but like I said, the bricks are robust and they can be used for different kinds of things. Actually, in Colombia, they're using them for social housing, which is something that can as well be done here if people do want to use these bricks as well. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, that's my chat on the project, and like Elizabeth said, this is really a practical example of what you can do in terms of addressing SDGs. This is really, actually this particular project I think touches on like eight SDGs or something like that, but in terms of education, this is something that is really concrete, something tangible, and people do like tangible solutions and things that they can really see and touch and be part of. Again, this is a starting point. Again, like I said, depending on what kind of funding is available, you can do a simple classroom, standard classroom. You can do one where you incorporating things like, the green concept, where you're looking at adding solar panels for areas that don't have electricity, which is majority here in rural areas. You can look at adding programs that are going to teach children about SDGs, children about greening concepts within schools, children about separating their own plastic at home and transferring this knowledge to the parents as well. You can as well bundle in the same project teacher training, which is as well needed to improve education quality, because this is really, I could say this is really something that we're using as an entry point to grow many other programs. I could as well tell you that on the supply side of things, on the supply chain, on the actual beginning of the project, you have a group of women or poor people who have kind of like been neglected and are vulnerable, and this project is giving you access to these people that you'd not access in the first place. So it gives you an avenue to communicate UNICEF good messages about breastfeeding, about vaccination, about violence against children, about violence against girls, and many other ideas that you would want to communicate about the SDGs and all. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Norman. Lots and lots of good feedback in the chat. I'm going to just repeat some of the questions, but maybe also if somebody wants to speak up and raise your hand and ask a question directly. There were a couple of questions actually about the bricks themselves. Do they degrade, for example? Is there a risk of them releasing gases? And also, can they again be recycled or reused? Is it like a circular economy thing? A couple of participants were asking.
Okay, I think when I was talking, you had me emphasizing the fact that we do not use PVC. The reason we don't use PVC is that after a certain temperature, when you heat PVC, it actually becomes toxic and releases toxic fumes. But for the other types of plastic, if you look at the kind of plastic that we use, for a start, the plastic is not toxic in the sense that you're using milk bottles or packaging for milk bottles. But again, to put all your fears aside, we carried out tests on the bricks to confirm that they were not releasing any heavy metals or any toxins that may harm people. Yes, the bricks are recyclable. You can bring them back into the production. Actually, within the production process, the cut-offs and those that don't come out very well are actually recycled back into the production. So this particular project, I would say, does not produce waste. All the waste that is produced or the cut-offs are put back in the same system. The water that is used, it uses a closed system. So it is the same water that keeps going out, not that it is being dumped anywhere. So yeah, I hope I've answered some of those questions.
Thank you. And the other set of questions are obviously colleagues asking about can they share your presentation? I saw that you already shared the YouTube link to the little video, but also about the possibility to replicate this project in other countries. I know you said that it's a Colombian company that is now, producing or helping to produce things in Cote d'Ivoire. So that's already an international aspect. But are you aware of this happening in other countries? Is there a way for other countries to apply to have a similar project in their country? And finally, a lot of teachers were asking, how can their kids connect with the project or connect with the kids in these newly built classrooms? Don't know, maybe that's a lot to ask in one go, but I thought the idea was actually quite exciting.
Okay, yeah, like I said, the company, it's a social enterprise from Colombia called Concepto Plásticos. They do have actually a production plant in Colombia, in Bogota, and the other plant is here in Cote d'Ivoire. For UNICEF, okay, the plant in Colombia, UNICEF was not part of it. UNICEF has been part of the plant here in Cote d'Ivoire. The idea for UNICEF is it's using this as a pilot, as a pilot project to see how it is going to work here in Cote d'Ivoire, and what kind of lessons can we learn to actually implement this on a global scale. Again, during the UNGA, we actually had I think like a 1 hour session, no, a 1 hour visit from the ED, Harrietta Fo, and she really likes this project. She has spoken about it on the UNICEF board. So if everything, yes, we've definitely been faced with quite a number of challenges, but still we've proceeded and now the production has started. With lessons learned and with improvements into the process in terms of working with the UN, working with UNICEF, we do think this is something that is definitely going to grow and be taken to other countries as well. And the beauty with this particular company is they are not so much interested in just the profit, but it is what comes with the profit, what kind of good. They are really insisting on working with women, because the way the recycling sector is set up at the moment, you have women going in drainage channels, in landfills and things like that, and collecting this plastic. And then when they collect this plastic, they sell the plastic to some middleman who then goes and now sells it, exports it to China or India, or sells it to other companies. So if I take, if I just assume that 1 kilo of plastic waste, say HD plastic waste, is I don't know, $50, you'll find that the woman is only getting, 0.1 of a dollar or 0.15 of a dollar, and the other remaining portion of the money is actually going to the middleman. So the middleman is gaining way more compared to actually the person who's doing the actual hard work of collecting the plastic. So this particular project, the social enterprise is really pushing for working with women directly. They want to actually work with women directly, or even though they can't work with the women directly in some cases, of course, it's at times hard to just come and change, a given community. They want to limit the influence that the middlemen have and sort of like reverse the equation. So in cases where the middlemen have been taking 75% of the proceeds from the plastic, they want to change that, and the 75 goes to the women and the 25 goes to the middleman by using techniques like mobile money payments, which we're using mobile money payments. You're doing direct transaction from your phone or from your bank account to the person who is actually receiving the money, not going through someone. So it is definitely something that that UNICEF is really interested in. That UNICEF is really interested in. Otherwise, it would not have invested all this kind of money in it. And I believe they want to take this to scale and take it to many other places. And like I said, the advantages that come out of this is actually when you do have a production plant within your country, because like I said, think of it, every one classroom, 5 tons, every one classroom, 5 tons. So that effect definitely multiplies with time. Yeah, how can children connect with these particular children? A little bit hard. I could get more. We can follow up with the communications team and education team as well. But you have to appreciate the fact that in most of sub-Saharan Africa, when you get out of the cities, internet connectivity really drops, and internet usage really drops, or even the cost of internet is so high that majority of families do not take this as a priority. So they are still using maybe TV if they're lucky, or radio, things like that. So at times social media and all is definitely out of the way. Though we can share some stories, we do share stories on the website. I've shared the website, UNICEF website, or UNICEF Cote d'Ivoire website. You can follow us as well on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter, and you can keep seeing what is happening on the project and what kind of stories. The link I shared is actually specifically meant for the project. You can see different articles, New York Times, World Economic Forum, Al Jazeera, and all that have done, and BBC as well, actually.
Thank you so much, Norm. Maybe the idea of connecting kids in different countries is something we'll have to brainstorm a little on. That maybe goes beyond your expertise. Were there any other questions? I'm not sure, Jennifer, if there was anything in the chat that I missed, or if anybody wants to raise their hand and ask a question directly to either Norm or Ezra.
I just see a lot of excited teachers wondering how they can bring this to their classrooms, and showing appreciation for Ezra and Norman joining today.
Norman, just in terms of replicating or possibly, the interest that's been expressed for seeing if similar projects might be available in other countries, would a good point of a starting point be to connect with UNICEF in other countries?
Yes, I would say that would be a good starting point. Yeah, connect with UNICEF within your country.
Okay.
Since the focus has been education, and it is easy to justify with education, I'd say connect with the UNICEF, or the chief of education, or the deputy rep in the deputy representative within the UNICEF country offices there, and they can definitely get in touch, and we see how we're doing. At the moment, like I said, we've been really struggling to get this up and running, and I don't know, like about 2-3 weeks ago, actually the production started. We should be receiving the first classrooms out of the factory by the end of this month, and we want to go ahead and carry out construction of these classrooms. About I don't know, 8-hour drive from Abidjan.
Progress on your website.
Thank you.
Exactly. Excellent. One, you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation, obviously there's, all this comes with a price tag, and there is funding, of course, required. And I always think that one way, for especially in some of the countries involved, is to do their own fundraising. We always encourage to collect money for the UNICEF USA trick or treat activity. I know that a lot of teachers probably participate in that. But is there a way or a mechanism for using funds or providing them directly to this project or to UNICEF Côte d'Ivoire?
Okay. This might be easily understood by people who've been in the UN maybe, but our country office is not a direct fundraising office, if I may say so. We can't, as in, I can't go and give money directly to UNICEF Côte d'Ivoire. A majority of the fundraising that we've done, and we received quite a lot of support from the US, Canada, UK, Germany, France, Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, is through the national committees. All these countries have national committees, and people do contribute to the project through their national committees, and then the national committees transfer the funds to UNICEF Côte d'Ivoire to actually go ahead and implement the project. I think this is the same way that we'll have to keep going, because our office is a country office that actually does implementation of programs. Yes, this one, vaccination and all, we are not doing direct fundraising at the moment. The fundraising is coming through the national committees, the different national committees in developed countries, if I may say that.
Okay, thank you. So continue supporting your national UNICEF committees is all I can say.
I have a question for Ezra, Elizabeth, and something we can talk about next time, but as we have Ezra here. So I know next month with UNGA Week and Global Goals Week, there's going to be a lot online. Are there any opportunities, Ezra, that you would recommend that teachers or their classrooms could participate in September? I know we have a lot of people here that love joining in for those types of events. Some people even joined on site last year in New York City. So we'd love to hear from you on that.
Actually, yes. So we're currently planning a lot of things for the UNGA week, which is going to be probably crazy busy, because that's the month that we usually don't live with just work. That's what we say. So basically, one project that we've been working on, and it has been going on for a couple of years now, is the SDG Media Zone. And SDG Media Zone is a platform that I talked about, basically a platform for experts, heads of governments and states, and like celebrities, influencers to talk about the SDG implementation. So that's coming up for the UNGA week. I can share the link with this group. So stay tuned. We're still working on the program and our speakers, but that's coming up soon. The other thing is the SDG Action Zone, which is more for the civil society, and that is also like coming up. I'm happy to share that link as well. All the teachers currently online can click on these links and basically add the events on their calendar, and then of course and watch them live.
That sounds perfect. We're all about action, so yes. That'll be a perfect spot for our classrooms to join in. Thank you. Any other questions for Norman or Ezra, or any for Elizabeth also? Okay. Elizabeth, I have a couple updates, but first, anything you want to share as we conclude this session for today?
Yeah, just to mention, we will be sharing as a follow-up email, rather than in the chat, a slightly updated list of our, just a collection of resources, which include all of the ones that Ezra had mentioned, plus a lot more on all kinds of other activities and ways to be involved and engaged. One good other area where you can always find events is the Secretary General's Envoy for Youth. They have regular events. For example, there's a youth plenary session on the UN 75 coming up on September 9th. That I think will be open for people to join. Youth is always one of those fluid things, but I think for high schoolers, it would definitely be of interest. Yeah, that's another good one. But the link again is on the resources page. So there's a question actually here in the chat on sharing content with students virtually and online. We try to make things or package things in a way that make them easy to use both in person and online. But we'll continue updating our resources list. So maybe if you join the next session, there'll be more material for that, because we realize, I mean, in a way that was kind of the inspiration of what made us organize these webinars, because we realize that people are kind of running out of things to do with people online, and I think all of us are getting sick of seeing people in boxes.
We miss people.
We do.
Well, fantastic. So to share a couple updates with you all. So thank you to everyone who was able to join live today. And we will be sharing out, as Elizabeth just mentioned, an email that will have resources that were shared today. We'll have links, the recording, and also a survey. We also invite you to join for our third webinar, which will be on September 2nd, where we're going to focus on the UN, human rights, and you, which I'm sure we'll have much more information on UNGA Week and Global Goals Week that we can share there, and Ezra will have links for us that we can point you to. But anything else, Elizabeth, before we conclude today?
I just saw another question in the chat about connecting with other teachers, and I think obviously that's what you do, and that's what your network is for. But in addition to that, I would encourage you to see if in your country there is a UN Information Center. There are UN Information Centers in about 60 countries around the world, and all of them work very closely with schools, with civil society. They have a resource center. They host groups in their information centers, and every once in a while they'll set up sessions for like video bridges between schools in different countries, or have kids in one country dial into an event that's happening in New York City to address issues such as the connectivity problems that Norman was mentioning earlier. So I'm going to post a link to just a generic link to the information UN information centers. And you can see if there is one that is relevant for your country. So that's a good way of connecting with the UN.
Can I ask a question? Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much for this session. I would like to ask the question about such activity as UN model connected with SDGs. Are there any platforms which can connect students from different countries in order to to solve, to discuss these SDGs in this form. It's very interesting and motivating, I think, and it would help students understand the world better. Thank you.
Yeah, Model UN, sorry, Ezra, go ahead.
I was going to say the same thing, but please feel free to answer. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think Elizabeth was mentioning the same thing. We have a beautiful, like a tool called Model UN, and actually I'm a former Model UNer, so that is something I can totally recommend everyone to be part of. So it's like a role-playing game. Basically, students, they represent countries assigned to them, and they try to like solve world's problems and challenges that they're facing, that the world is facing them. And one of the topics, of course, that we're focusing on is the SDGs. And of course, depending on the Model UN session, that we might have a topic focusing on the SDGs. Something that I would highly recommend for students to be part of.
Thank you, Vlad, for that question. It's nice to see you too.
Yeah, I just posted a link to there's a website on Model UN. There are so many different Model UN opportunities. It's impossible for anybody to keep track of all the Model UNs out there. But I would encourage you to have a look at the website. And we're actually, in a few weeks' time, publishing a book, kind of a how-to guide, if you want to set up your own Model UN club in your school, or how to kind of a how-to very practical guidebook on Model UNs, and that'll be available through the UN bookshop. And I posted the link on that earlier. So, but again, the information center in your area should be able to help you.
May I just jump in quickly? Just a little prompt for Elizabeth. I don't know, Elizabeth, whether you'd like to say something about the SDG lesson plan.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Tracy. So in addition to the resources page, we're also, we developed kind of a model lesson plan. Actually, one of our interns was the driving force behind that. So that's Antonio. I see him on the line too. So Antonio, well done. And that'll be shared after the session as well. It's aimed at slightly older students, because a lot of the resources that are available are more for younger kids. So this one is for high schoolers. So we'll be sharing that as well, and hopefully you can get some use out of that.
Fantastic. Well, with that, we will go ahead and conclude today. I'd like to thank Ezra and Norman, and of course, Elizabeth and her entire team at the UN Visitor Center for joining us for today and for this webinar series. And we look forward to continuing the conversation. Be sure to follow Ezra and Norman on social media, also at Visit UN, and please tag us in at Take Action EDU. So thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you on September 2nd. Please be sure, if you haven't registered, to register early, as these are filling up, and we want to make sure anyone that wants to participate has access. So we appreciate you all, and we will talk to you very soon.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, and thank you everybody for joining. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you,
and send us your
Elizabeth.
feedback.